It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Sara Harberson. Hi, Sara. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Your bio says that you are a former dean of admissions turned college counselor. Are you still doing college counseling?
I am. I work with a private Facebook group called Application Nation, but I also share lots of free resources, a weekly blog, also do an Instagram Live every Friday afternoon for every family, all families across the country and beyond, so that the information is easily accessible about the college admissions process.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a big topic, so I think we need to sort of dissect it into pieces as much as we can cover in about 20 minutes. But all college entrance requirements are not created equal, I don't think, are they?
No. However, the high school transcript usually has always actually carried the most weight in the admissions process. A lot of people think that standardized test scores come next, but that's kind of a complicated question because many colleges this year adopted what's called a test optional policy, and many colleges have actually extended that for next year as well.
Well, there's been a lot of news about college entrance requirements being unfair, particularly to people of color, and there have been calls saying that standardized testing is culturally biased. I've heard a lot of these different talking points. And my attitude seems to be, though, if we really want true equity in educational opportunities, that the entire thing has to be standardized. Not just the tests and not just the entrance requirement, but the curriculum, the costs, and the weight of the degree. A degree from Joe's University in bum nowhere, Iowa, doesn't hold as much weight as a university degree from Harvard. Now, to go to Harvard costs 20 times as much, and I think that's where the inequity lies. It isn't necessarily in the testing. This is just my own opinion, and I wanted to get your take on it. So what do you think?
Oh, my gosh. The college admissions process is full of inequity in every way.
In every way. Okay.
Every way. And part of it is that it is actually a much more subjective process than what people think. So although test scores and transcripts have, been required pieces of the application for years, when you apply to especially selective colleges, that's just really just to keep you competitive. That many times the admissions decision is going to come down to those subjective pieces. Now, the thing is, though, with the pandemic happening and with test optional policies spreading across the country, for most colleges this year, what we saw was that there were more students of color applying to certain colleges. There were more first-generation students. There were more rural students. And so you have to figure that, the actual standardized test was actually an inhibitor, a barrier, an obstacle in the admissions process, at least for those students. But this is a subjective process, and I'm going to be honest, that's why there was an admissions scandal, by the way, 2 years ago. That's why, this has been a process that does not have a level playing field, because there's so much that happens behind closed doors. There's so many things that, are subjective. There are personal opinions and biases built into the process, and that's what makes us, applying to college so complex. and so complicated, especially for a student coming from a regular background. That student could be doing extraordinary things, but if they're not getting good information, it can be a real struggle about, how to be the most competitive applicant they can be.
Okay, well, that's a great segue. So your book is called Soundbite?
Yes.
Okay, and then the subtitle is The Admissions Secret That Gets You Into College and Beyond.
Yes.
Okay.
It is. So Soundbite has two meanings in my world. I coined the term or applied it to the college admissions process because of two different aspects of the process. Now, I spent half of my career reading college applications, working for the colleges and universities. And after I would read an application, I would recommend an admissions decision, accept, deny, waitlist, whatever the decision was. I had to back it up with a really quick, short sentence, basically summing up the student in a sentence, recommending an admissions decision. That was how we got through literally tens of thousands of applications in a short amount of time, because I had to prove that I had read the application, but anyone else who read the application or took a look at it would see my summary. Now, admissions officers judge students no matter what, whether they've got their own soundbite or not. But when I started to work on the other side of the process as a college counselor, at a high school at one point, and now as America's college counselor, helping students and parents as an independent college counselor, what I've tried to encourage students to do is recognize that they could have the test scores, they could have the grades in the classes, but what's really going to help them stand out in such a competitive environment is having a soundbite that an admissions officer or that college has never seen before. And this is a strategy, frankly, that students can use when getting jobs or internships, or students applying to graduate school, or adults changing careers and changing jobs or going back to college. It's this idea that we're going to be judged very quickly no matter what. We want to be judged accurately. So I coined the term soundbite in terms of college admissions to encourage students to have a one-sentence statement about who they are that allows them to do the right activities that support what they want to do, take the right classes, put down the right major on their application, write essays that are reflective or complementary of their soundbite. That's how you stand out in the applicant pool that is tens of thousands of applications deep.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. Can you give me an example of a soundbite? You said one sentence, which...
Yeah, and it's not put on the application. There isn't like a spot that says, okay, list, Sara Harberson's soundbite right here, or Sara Harberson's, strategy here. So it's really something that the student usually holds close to the vest, that they could absolutely bring it up in an interview, but yes, it will help them in every stage. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a student a couple of years ago, and I asked him what his favorite class was in high school thus far. And he said, it's not even a core subject. It's not like English or math. And I said, well, what is it? He's like, I took an elective class called botany. And I went, that's very cool. Didn't know many high schools that offer that. And he said, yeah, I really just fell in love with the subject matter. And then my teacher asked me to be the manager of our school's greenhouse. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. There aren't many high school students doing that. And he's like, I absolutely love botany, but I want to be a doctor, so it's not even important. I said, it is important. And so what I showed that student was, you could be an environmental science major in college and apply to medical school. You don't have to be a biology or chemistry major. But I also started to point out to him that all the things that he was doing, he was working at a shelter, he was working with children who were hospitalized with major illnesses at hospitals. He was actually being a cultivator or caretaker of people and actually plants in different environments. So we came up with his soundbite, and here it is. I am a cultivator of plants and relationships, and I see my world as a greenhouse, ensuring that those in my care and company feel the warmth of the human spirit. That's just one example.
Wow.
I have another who is, he identifies as American Samoan. So culture can come into your soundbite as well, especially if it's got it's very unusual or something that most colleges don't see. So he is American Samoan. He is a harpist. He loves chemistry, but more specifically, he actually loves material science, and he's really passionate about cultural identity. So here's his soundbite. I am an American Samoan harpist who is interested in chemistry, specifically material science, because I like to study not only what things are made up of, but also what makes up each individual's cultural identity. You can see how in a short sentence, we learn about his own cultural identity, how interested he is in others, his academic interests, and also what he does from an extracurricular standpoint, being a harpist. So the soundbite is a quick sentence, 40 words or less, written in the first person, written in the present tense, using nouns and verbs because they're much more powerful than adjectives and adverbs, and it's a soundbite that no one else in the world could have.
Oh, I like that idea. Have you had anybody actually do a physical soundbite and record that statement?
For an application
to
include?
Like, here's the MP3. You can click on it and listen. Or do they want everything written down?
For the most part, you can provide links, but the key is, my book is called The Admissions Secret. You don't have to state your soundbite to an admissions officer in your application. It should come through very naturally in every section of your application. And that's why it is an admissions secret in the end, that it's your secret way of telling your story. It's your secret way of getting your identity across without saying, hey, here's my soundbite. But the beautiful thing is it can come in handy in so many other environments and chapters of an individual's life, as I mentioned earlier. If a student has trouble putting together that soundbite, I tell them identify 5 nouns and verbs or a combination, but not adjectives, and then we can make a sentence out of it. And that's what we did for that American Samoan student. His 5 words were American Samoan, harpist, chemistry, material science, and cultural identity. And then we strung all of that together to make a really powerful statement. And I guarantee you there's no other person in the world that could have said that same soundbite.
So aside from author of the book, do you also do counseling and coaching with people one-on-one to help them actually create their soundbite?
So for the most part, I'm a public school girl. I didn't have a lot of resources. So I'm not a big, private college counselor fan because I'm trying to get the message out to more families, as many as possible. The admission scandal focused on Rick Singer. He's a gentleman that had no college admissions experience and charged hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most families don't have that kind of money, and most families want to be ethical. So my message is to try to get my message out to as many people as possible. But I work with my Application Nation group every step of the way. So some families join when their child is a 9th grader. Some families join, right before senior year. And I take them through every section of the application so that their child and the student joins in can have a guide and know exactly how they should approach each section of the application. So, for example, next week, we're going to be writing soundbites. And then after that, we're going to start writing college essays and then supplemental essays. And then we're going to fill out the application the end of August. And then we're going to be finalizing college lists. So every single month, the student and family are going to be working on another piece of the process. And I'm right there every step of the way.
Do you know the percentage of Americans who go to college?
It's a good question. I don't know. I would be taking a guess. I think it depends on the community you're coming from. I know the high school I went to, it was probably in the 20% range. It was fairly low. But then if we look at some, affluent suburban areas of the country, it could be as high as 80 to 90%.
Right.
You have some high schools, 100%, 4-year college group of students going on, but that's usually at a private school. At most public schools, it could vary. It could be as high as 90-something%. It could be as low as the kind of high school that I went to growing up, in the 20 to 30% range. So it really depends on the community and the high school you're coming from. But it's an expensive endeavor. And I thought, maybe last year, especially when the pandemic hit, that, families might not want to pay that kind of money anymore, especially if there was virtual learning involved. But as we saw this year, the most selective colleges were the most desirable colleges. And those colleges received significant increases in applications in 1 year. So it goes to show that, the pandemic did not scare anyone off in terms of going to college, especially the elite ones.
Yeah, I don't know that statistic either, but I did see a statistic that said for the last couple of years that there have been more women graduating with a 4-year degree than men in the United States. So that was very encouraging.
Yeah, and that's been pretty common for a long time, interestingly. And you will see for most colleges, unless it's a straight engineering program or a business program, you will see almost always that there are more women than men applying, and the enrolled student body, more women than men, and the graduating class, more women than men. Yes, absolutely. You will see that almost across the board.
Why do you suppose that is?
I think it's a complicated issue, but I think it has to do with, there's data to suggest that on average, male students actually get higher scores on standardized tests, but female students actually perform better in the classroom with their classes, not only in high school, but in college in general.
Okay.
And so if they're performing better in general in their classes, that increases their graduation rate in the end from college as well.
I was going to suggest that the reason there are more women graduating and going to college than men is because the blue-collar industry that typically does not require a college degree for a job is more predominantly male.
I think there's some truth to that as well. Absolutely.
And then so the option for women in blue collar is less than it would be. Not to suggest that there aren't women who perform blue collar jobs, but in other words, if it's more men that's going into blue collar, the women would tend to gravitate towards a white collar profession. I don't know. That was just one thought. We do have to kind of wrap this up. You want to? Do you have a website that you want to give out, or a website for your book, or a personal website?
So I have a lot of free resources on saraharberson.com, including my weekly blog.
Okay.
I also offer Instagram Lives every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time at Sara Harberson. I do Facebook Lives every month on Sara Harberson and Admissions Revolution. You can find my book on Amazon or any website or at any bookstore around the country, and you can also find it on my website.
Okay, so your website is saraharberson.com, and it's Sara spelled with no H, correct?
Right, but it's confusing because Harberson starts with an H. But my first Sara, S-A-R-A, but I do answer to both Sara without an H and Sara with an H. Same pronunciation.
Okay, no, it's just if somebody types it in with two H's, they're going to get a reject. So I want to make sure that...
One H for my last name.
One H.
That's correct.
So you could spell your name S-A-R-A-H and then just have your last name be Harberson rather than, silent H, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Well, Sara, thanks so much for coming on. This was an interesting conversation. Best of luck with your book. How's it doing? How's your book doing?
It's exceeding all expectations. Pre-orders were huge, and we launched on Tuesday with great results so far, so I'm very optimistic. We're tracking as #1 in education theory on Amazon right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, best of luck. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Love coffee, huh? But wait a minute. It seems like every time you finish a cup of coffee, you get all of these side effects along with it. Heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, acid reflux. As the world's first and only organic acid-free coffee, Tyler's Coffee is able to provide a healthier option in the solution for more than 100 million individuals who have sensitive stomachs or suffer from acid-related modalities. This is Tyler's acid-free coffee. Coffee without the consequences.
Hi, this is John Morgan, production supervisor for DJC Productions. And you're listening to The Douglas Coleman Show.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, David Kouri. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good, Douglas. How are you doing?
Oh, doing fine, thank you. You're a writer based in Texas, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm based actually in Kyle, Texas. It's about 20 minutes outside of Austin.
Okay. One of the things on your bio that I was curious that I wanted to ask you about, it says you've written a live-action Batman series. What is that?
Yes, I have. First off, it was just done as fan fiction for myself, so it's not something that I'm actually really trying to push unless Warner Brothers wants to sit down and have a chit chat. But what I can tell you is that it is a extremely intense story. It is a story. It's an origin story unlike any origin Batman story that we have ever heard. This is a very different Bruce Wayne than the one that we see in the movies, the one that we see in the cartoons, the one that we see in the comic books and stuff like this. This is the real Bruce Wayne. And what I tried to do was I tried to give it a feel that what would happen if a real person came in and did what he's doing. Well, that person would probably only have about an 8 to 10 year lifespan, considering that. So I do quite a few different things. I can't go into grave detail because I don't want to get sued by anybody, but I have what I believe could become the defining story. I have what I believe could be better than any television series that's ever existed, quite honestly. I think the story it's extremely stout. It's violent, but it's honest, and it kind of depicts Bruce Wayne as a member of the League of Shadows, as an assassin. That as right after his parents die, he's taken to an island where he is trained from the age of about 13 to 21 to be an assassin by the League of Shadows. And he comes home after having nightmares of his mother and father talking to him in his dreams as the bloodied versions of themselves after they're shot in the alleyway outside of the opera. And so it shows him dealing with things in a really difficult way, and then finally meets the right person by the name of Raj Al Ghul, who takes him and trains him in the ways of the League of Shadows. Then he comes back to Gotham to save Gotham, to save it from the criminal element, and to destroy any sense of corruption and crime in the city of Gotham. And at the same time, try and do his best to save the rest of the country and the rest of the world as well. So that's basically it. That story is a lot of fun. That story, I have spent the better portion of almost a decade working on that and perfecting that and getting it to where I believe that if I ever get a chance to sit down with the right people, that I should be able to sell them on this.
Well, who owns Batman now? It's Marvel
Batman
Comics,
is owned
right?
by it was DC actually, and DC is run by Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers has had they basically had the whole thing on Batman and Superman since the late 70s. And obviously in '86 with the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman, which I still think is is the greatest Batman of all time movie, at least. Basically all I did with that series is I took everything that I would want to see with a character like Bruce Wayne. With all of the characters, I've taken our criminals and I've given them what I would call a lot more flavor than probably anyone has ever given these villains before ever in the history of cartoons, comics, live action movies, whatever you want to do, because it's a television series. And I can expand, I can go on and on and on. And the way that I set up the criminals in this, and the criminals that we use are like people like the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, the ones that make the most sense to use, not that I call it silly, but like Killer Croc. I think he's kind of a silly bad guy. But Penguin, Joker, those guys are awesome, and I have brought a totally new flavor to my Joker than I think anyone has ever seen or ever will see. And it's just a delve into the psyche of Bruce Wayne, to delve into the psyche of Batman, and pretty much everybody. It's just a delve into what makes these people tick and why they do the things they do. And it's such a wonderful story. It's so much fun.
So you said that this was going to be a TV series, not a movie?
That's what I wanted to do, because it's still, I think we've got Batwoman or Batgirl on TV right now, which is it's a fantastic show, actually. I love what they're doing with it. But this one, if I can get it, if I can ever pitch it to anyone, then I truly honestly believe that this would just be huge. I mean, massive, multi-billion-dollar business venture here. And like I said, we've got the Batman stuff, and I've never tried my hand before ever at really trying to write for anything that I don't own, because normally pretty much all I do is my own stuff. But I just thought, the Christian Bale series was coming to an end when I started writing this. They had just released The Dark Knight Rises, I think, in the theaters like about a week before. And I was upset, and I wasn't happy that Ben Affleck was going to be the new Batman, but now I really love Ben Affleck as the new Batman. I think he's great. But at the time I didn't. And so I was like, if I could create my own series, what would I do? How would I do it? How would it be different from someone else's? How would it be different from anything Christopher Nolan or Tim Burton or the people that did the show back in the 60s did? And well, mine is, I just think it's more honest. I just think it's a more realistic version of what would honestly happen. I'm not saying that I don't think Nolan's version didn't have that, because it did, but it had a little bit of fantasticism in it, as I like to call, and there were things in it that you could believe for a bit, but then at the end of it you're just kind of like, oh, that could never happen. But the story that I'm building is that he doesn't have all those wonderful toys that he has in the movies. He doesn't use weapons of any kind as Batman. He uses his head, his fists, and his feet. And he is brutal. He is the guy could basically, it's all, basically what we show when I do the attack scenes, when I do the fight scenes and stuff like that, is when Batman snaps someone's arm, we go to an X-ray or leg, or when anything breaks on the bad guys, we show it X-rayed out. So it's a pretty wild series, and like I said, it's not something that I've been able to get in front of anybody that would give me the time of day, and I'm pretty sure that Warner Brothers is going to be tough to get at, but I am going to keep working and working and working until I get my way there.
Okay. Well, good luck with that. We got to move on.
Thank you.
Because we need to get to your book.
Absolutely.
Your book is called Elyria?
It's Elyria.
Elyria.
Actually, yes.
Okay.
Elyria.
Okay. Tell us about the book.
Well, it's a fantasy. And it starts off with a young man who is a senior in high school. And basically what happens at the beginning of the book is there is a home invasion. His mom and dad are most likely murdered. He gets out of the house and away from the bad guys, only to get shot, wake up in a hospital with some guy in steampunk style clothes. He tells this young man lying in the bed that he is a vampire and that he is the savior of the world, that he has been chosen to save all of us. And basically what the story is about, it's kind of about acceptance of all. As this book opens up, vampires are living and working with regular humans. They have humans that are there to donate blood to them. They don't go out of their way to kill anyone anymore except the bad ones. This guy finds out that he is vampire royalty. It's about accepting. It's about there's groups of humans out there that want to destroy anything that they don't feel represents them, and that would be the monster community. That would be our vampires, our witches, our demons, and our angels that all take human form in these books. And it, like I said, it is a book that delves deep into it delves into hatred. It shows the hatred that people have for certain groups that just doesn't make sense at all because they don't know these people, and they don't know anyone in this book. And basically it's just about this young man trying to come to grips with losing his mom, his dad, finding out that he's also 99 and a half years old, and that he is the savior of the world. So it's pretty much it in a nutshell, along with the fact that he is probably the most powerful vampire to ever live.
Is he a good vampire?
Oh, yes. Yes, he's a very, 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 very good guy. Very good guy. And he's got a group of, I guess, that I'd like to call freedom fighters that travel with him around the globe, helping him help other people. He's building an army for the coming war, which is going to basically wind up destroying Earth if he can't find a way to solve the issues.
How long has the book been
out? The newest version of it was put out, I think, about 2 months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. We did a new edit on it and sent that back to Amazon. So I think it was back in December or November of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Have you got any good reviews from it?
I've gotten some. My problem is that since I really don't have a name out there and I don't have all the money in the world for publicity and stuff like that, it's kind of tough to get word out. But I have my website, davidmatthewswriter.com, davidmatthewswriter.com, and then my Facebook page. But I got my friends reading it. My family seems to like my books. I've gotten some reviews from some people out there, some 3.5, 4 stars, which have been exceedingly exciting for me. And we're pushing the book to as many different agents as we possibly can. And, at some point in time, something's going to happen. The book is very, very good. It's very, very violent. It's extremely violent. And it has a decent love story in it between several different people, several different characters. I'm not even sure what I could really compare this to. It is a vampire book unlike anything that I've ever read. And that's my goal, is if I'm not trying to do something that somebody else has asked me to do, then I am going to get as creative as I can possibly get with just about everything I try to do. And I think I did with that. I really do. There is a space travel element that kind of comes in at the end of the book. So it's wild. It's utterly crazy.
Well, David, we got to wrap up the interview. Thanks so much for coming on. And give out your website again.
It's davidmatthewswriter.com.
Like Dave Matthews?
Yeah, David Matthews, Matthews. That's my middle name. davidmatthewswriter.com. That's it. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and best of luck with your books.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.